Lectures on the Basics of Biblical Greek. Chapter 9. To this point in Biblical Greek, we've learned the first and second declensions, here indicated by the definite articles, which so often help us to sort out tense, mood, and voice of other nouns. It's very important that you know these well. Let's review them. The nominative singular, ha, he, ta. The genitive singular, tu, tes, tu. The dative singular, to, te, to. Notice the iota subscript in each case, and the lengthening of the stem vowels, the ablouting in the masculine and neuter. Accusative singular, ton, tain, ta. Nominative plural, hoi, hi, ta. Again, with the alpha of the neuter plural. Nominative, the stem vowel is contracted. Genitive plural, tone, tone, tone. The omega contracts all the stem vowels in this particular case. Dative plural, tois, tais, tois. And accusative plural, tus, tas, ta. Let's also recall what we just learned about prepositions, namely that they function in a way quite similar to those, the use of prepositions in English. In other words, the preposition shows the relationship between two words. The sons came into the house. Into, eis, shows the relationship between tein, oikion, the house, and the entrance, the sons came. The word following the preposition is its object, and here we're talking about the noun, oikion. Together they form a new prepositional phrase. What's new about Greek is that the meaning of the preposition depends on the case of its object. Eis means to or into because it's followed by the accusative. These 5 prepositions only govern one case, so they are easy to learn as vocabulary. Apa plus the genitive, from or away from. Ek plus the genitive, from or out of. En plus the dative, in, on, or among. Eis plus the accusative, into, in, or among. Pros plus the accusative, to, towards, or on rare occasions, with. The rule about the meaning of the preposition depending on its case comes into view when one turns to prepositions like dea. When it's followed by the genitive, it means through. When it's followed by the accusative, it means on account of. Meta, followed by the genitive with, followed by the accusative, it means after. Hipa, followed by the genitive by, accusative under. Lastly, there's our friend para, which may govern all 3 cases that prepositions govern. Genitive, it means from. Dative, beside, in the presence of, often about a person. Accusative, along the side of. Here it frequently is used for going alongside of the Sea of Galilee in the New Testament. And in our last lesson, we also learned the forms of me. A verb inflects according to its function, using personal endings that determine person and number, and then other changes to indicate tense, mood, and voice. Me, I am. A, you are. And always indicate it's singular. Estin, he, she, or it is. The new is movable on this form. Esmen, we are. Este, you plural are. Esin, again with a movable new, they are. Now let us turn to a lesson on Greek adjectives. What's nice about this lesson, drawing to conclusion this unit, no new case endings, just more review. By the time this lesson is done, the first and second declension case endings should be well in hand. Let's get started, though, with English adjectives. In English, the adjective modifies a noun or a pronoun. It can do so as an attributive, that is, giving a quality to the word modified. For example, she has bold faith. The word modified is faith, and bold gives you part of its quality. But an adjective in English can also function as a substantive, that is, in the place of a noun. For example, the holy praise God. There the adjective holy takes the place of the holy people, the holy ones, something like that. The third way in which an adjective can function in English is as a predicate, where it says something about the subject of the sentence, and intervening is a stative verb, such as a form of I am, a me. For example, Jesus was faithful. Was is a form of the verb to be, so faithful is a predicate adjective. It's in the same case, gender, and number as the subject. Now that we've talked about English adjectives, we're going to switch to Greek adjectives. First of all, how they are formed, and then secondly, how they function. A Greek adjective, unlike a Greek noun, inflects in all three declensions, because an adjective may have to agree with a masculine noun, a feminine noun, and or a neuter noun. Our example will be agathos, and it inflects as follows. Agathos, agathe, agathon. One can see the stem vowels indicated in blue for the first declension and green for the second declension, and one can see the familiar case endings. Sigma, nothing new. The genitive singular case endings are upsilon, sigma, upsilon, and you can see those here apply to agathos with a stem vowel according to the declension. Omicron, eta, omicron. Agatha, agathu, agathes, agathu. The dative singular endings, agatho, agathe, agatho, should be quite familiar by now. The omicron in the masculine and neuter has been abouted to an omega, and the case ending, the iota subscripts. In the first declension, the feminine, we have an eta with a iota subscript. Accusative singulars, agathon, agathane, agathon. And by now you should see that how the pattern flows. In the nominative plural, agathoi, agathai, agatha. Genitive plural is agathon, agathon, agathon. With the dative plurals, the stem vowels reappear according to the declension. Agathois, agathais, agathois. As is the case for the second and first declension, masculine and feminines in the accusative plural, agathus and agathas. The agatha of the neuter accusative plural is, as we would expect, identical to the nominative of the neuter accusative, or of the neuter plural. The form of the Greek adjective is quite simple. Simply the case endings that we already know and the stem vowels that we already know are added to the stem. Now, the function of the Greek adjective. In many ways, the Greek adjective mimics the English adjective. It has an attributive form, where it tells something about a noun or a pronoun. In the attributive form, the adjective agrees with the noun it modifies in case, number, and gender. So it and the article will look quite a bit alike. Examples. Ha, agathos, huios. The good son. Huios is nominative, singular, masculine. Agathos is nominative, singular, masculine. Ta agatha erga would be translated the good works. This is the attributive use of the adjective. As in English, so in Greek, an adjective may be used in the place of a noun. This is the substantival use of the adjective, and of course it will normally have a definite article. He agathe estin, the good woman is. Second example, apostele ta agatha ha Jesus. Jesus is sending forth good things. In the third example, erchomai, ek, tone, agathon, I am coming from the good persons. Or it could be from or out of the good things. Either translation is at least theoretically possible. And, just like in English, the Greek adjective can be a predicate nominative. That is, it tells the quality of the subject of the sentence. The first example, hoi oikia agathe. The house is beautiful. Notice the verb is, estin, is not present. That verb actually drops out quite a bit in Greek and is unnecessary for the full idea. The second example works the same way. The works are good. In Greek, just as in English, an adjective can function as an attributive, a substantive, or a predicate. But how does one determine that function? First, we need some definitions. An adjective with no article preceding it is called anarthrous. An adjective with an article preceding it is called articular. Recognizing the presence of an article or its absence before an adjective is one of the clues for determining function. The attributive form of the adjective is identified when one has an articular adjective, that is one with an article in front of it, and the noun that it modifies. This will show up two ways in Greek. In a way that looks a lot like English, ha agathos logos, the good word, but it can also show up where the adjective follows the noun and has its own article, ha logos agathos, which, by the way, is translated identically to the first one, the good word. Just two different ways. The key is the adjective has an article preceding it and a noun with which it agrees, in case, gender, and number. To identify a substantival adjective, one must have an adjective and an article, but no noun that it modifies, only the articular adjective. So, ta agathon would be the good thing. Hai pistai would be the faithful women. Notice that an adjective is predicate if there is a noun that the adjective modifies in the clause, but the adjective itself is anarthrous. It does not have an article in front of it. So, for example, ta biblion agathon would be translated, the book is good. Agathos hahuios, again, the adjective is anarthrous, no article, but there is a noun with which it agrees. So this phrase too would be translated, the sun is good. Remember, case ending determines usage, not where it is in the sentence. Let's review by examining each of these examples. Number 1, agathos hachuios. The adjective is anarthrous. It has no article preceding it. And yet, it has a noun with which it agrees, huios. In this particular case, the adjective is functioning as a predicate. The sun is good. Number 2, ha agathos logos. The adjective is articular. It has an article, but it also has a noun with which it agrees. This is the attributive use of the adjective, the good word. Example number 3, hai pistai. The adjective pistai has an article. It's articular, but it does not have a noun with which it agrees. So in this particular case, the adjective is functioning in a substantival way, the faithful women. Example number 4, ha logos ha agathos. The adjective is articular. It has an article. It also has a noun with which it agrees. So the adjective is functioning as an attributive, and the phrase would be translated, the good word. Lastly, in this lesson, we have a couple of odds and ends, and they're a little bit odd. Nonetheless, they bring our lesson to an end. First of all, articles are pretty powerful tools. You can add them to a prepositional phrase, and then the prepositional phrase functions just like an adjective. Examples: epe tois en te oikia. We see the prepositional phrase en te oikia in the house, but it has an article in front of it, an a dative plural masculine. The clause would be translated, he spoke to the ones or to the people in the house. The second clause, there is a prepositional phrase, hypotein petron, under the rock. It too has an article directly in front of it. So it functions like an adjective. But notice it has a noun with which it agrees. So it would be an articular adjective. We might translate this crudely, the under the rock ground. More smoothly, we'd probably do it, the ground under the rock. And in the final example, he hypo tein petron, gay, we have exactly the same circumstance. The under the rock ground, or the ground under the rock. Second, odds and ends. Some adjectives of the first and second declension only show the second declension pattern. They're called 2-2 adjectives. Masculine and feminine look like the second declension masculine, and second declension neuter look like the second declension neuter. They're all second declension. It'll show up in your vocabulary list as aionios on. Notice there's no feminine form. So, the eternal word would be ha aionios logos. The eternal hour would be he aionios, notice no eta ending, hora. And the eternal work would be ta ionion, notice the new, ergon. This is an adjective of the 2-2 pattern. They're not nearly as frequent as the 2-1-2s, but they do show up nonetheless, and ionios is an example. Our final odds and ends point is to note that in classical Greek, neuter plural nominatives regularly took singular verbs because the neuter plural was apparently considered a collective. However, this is breaking down in Koine Greek. So one will find neuter plurals with singular verbs and neuter plurals with plural verbs. In either case, one translates them as plural in English. So, the first clause, ta erga estin, agatha, notice that's third person singular. Nonetheless, we translate it, the works are good. The second clause is easier because it uses asin, they are, the works are good. Both are identical. So, with these three odds and ends, the lesson draws to a close. Number 1, add an article just about anything, for example, a prepositional phrase, and that phrase functions like an adjective, either articular, substantival, or predicate. Adjectives of the 2-2 pattern, where masculine and feminine are identical and neuter, are entirely second declension. And then thirdly, neuter plurals often take singular verbs in Koine Greek. So in this lesson, we've talked a bit about the function of English adjectives as articular, substantival, and predicate. We have looked at the form of the Greek adjective, which is a great way to review our first and second declension endings. We've noticed how a Greek adjective functions, just like an English adjective, and the key to identifying it is the presence or absence of an article and the presence or absence of a noun. And then we've touched on a couple of odds and ends here at the end of the lesson.